Chapter 5 Morphology of Flowering Plants. The wide range in the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us. Even though the angiosperms show such a large diversity in external structure of morphology, they are all characterized by the presence of root, stem, leaves, flowers, and fruits. In chapter 2 and 3, we talked about classification of plant based on morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at classification and at understanding any higher plant or for that matter any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variation in different parts, found as adaptations of the plants to their environment. Example, adaptation to various habitat for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have root, stems, and leaves. They may be bearing flower and fruits. The underground part of flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground form the shoot system. The root. In majority of dicotyledonous plant, the direct elongation of radicle lead to formation of primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several order that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system, as seen in the mustard plant, figure 5.2a, in monocotyledonous plant. The primary root is short-lived and is replaced by large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system. As seen in wheat plant, figure 5.2b, in some plant like grass, monstera and the banyan tree, roots arise from parts of the plant other than radical and are called adventitious roots, figure 5.2c. The main functions of the root system are absorption of water and mineral from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to plant parts, storing, reserve food material, and synthesis of plant growth regulators. Reasons of the root. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. Figure 5.3. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled, and with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. This region is called region of elongation. The cells of elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature, and this zone proximal to the region of elongation is called the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structures called root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. The stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is the ascending part of the axis bearing branches, leaves, flowers, and fruit. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of germinating seed. The stem bear nodes and internodes. The region of stem where leaves are born are called nodes, while internodes are portions between two nodes. The stem bear buds, which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. The main function of stem is of spreading out branches bearing leaf, flower and fruit. It conducts water, mineral and photosynthesis. Some stem perform the function of storage of food, support, protection and of vegetative propagation. The leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure born on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristem and are arranged in an acropetal order. They are the most important vegetative organ for photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf, base, petiole, and lamina. Figure 5.4a. The leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structures called stipule. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expands into sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called pulvinous. The petiole help hold the blade to light. Long, thin, flexible petioles allow leaf blades to flutter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to leaf surface. The lamina or leaf blade is the green expanded part of the leaf with vein and veinlets. There is usually a middle prominent vein, which is known as the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channels of transport for water, minerals, and food materials. The shape, margin, apex, surface, and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. Venation. The arrangement of veins and veinlets in lamina of leaf is termed as venation. When the veinlets form a network, the venation is termed as reticulate. Figure 5.4b. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as parallel. Figure 5.4c. Leaves of dicotyledonous plants generally possess reticulate venation, while parallel venation is characteristic of most monocotyledonous. Type of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. The incisions do not touch the midrib. When the incisions of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into a number of leaflets, the leaf is called compound. A bud is present in the axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflets of the compound. Leaf. The compound leaf may be of two types. Figure 5.5. In a pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on a common axis, the rachis, which represents the midrib of the leaf as in neem. In palmately compound leaf, the leaflets are attached at common point at the tip of petiole as in silk cotton. Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. This is usually of three types: alternate, opposite, and hold. In alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner as in China rose, mustard, and sunflower plant. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other as in calotropis and guava plants. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whole, it is called hold as in Alstonia. The inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internode do not elongate and the axis get condensed. The apex produces different kind of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex get developed into flower or continue to grow, two major types of inflorescence are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in basipetal order. The flower. The flower is a reproductive unit in the angiosperm. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kind of holes arranged successfully on the swollen end of stalk or pedicel called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic, radial symmetry, or zygomorphic, bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic. Example: mustard, datura, chili. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic. Example: pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular, if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in canna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in multiple of 3, 4, or 5 respectively. Flower with bracts reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel are called bracteate, and those without bracts are ebracteate. Based on position of calyx, corolla, and androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. Figure 5.9. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior. Example: mustard, China rose, and brinjal. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior. Example: plum, rose, peach. In epigynous flower, the margin of thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of flower rise above the ovary, hence the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flowers of guava and cucumber and ray florets of sunflower. Parts of flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral holes, these calyx, corolla, endosperm, gynoecium. Calyx. The calyx is the outermost hole of a flower and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green leaf-like and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepals united, or polysepalous, sepals free. Corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be gamopetalous, petals united, or polypetalous, petals free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plant. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped, or wheel-shaped. Aestivation. The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral bud with respect to other member of the same whole is known as aestivation. The main type of aestivation are velvet, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. Figure 5.11. When sepals or petals in a whole just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropis, it is said to be velvet. If one margin of the appendages overlap that of the next one and so on, as in China rose, ladyfinger, and cotton, it is called twisted. If the margins of the sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, the aestivation is called imbricate. In pea and bean flower, there are 5 petals. The largest standard overlap 2 lateral petal wing, which in turn overlap 2 smallest anterior petal keel. This type of aestivation known as vexillary or papilionaceous. Androecium. Androecium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has 2 chambers. The pollen sacs, the pollen grain, are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. Stamen of flower may be united with other members such as petal or among themselves. When stamen are attached to petal, they are epipetalous as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to perianth as in flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may either remain free, polyandrous, or may be united in varying degrees. The stamens may be united into one bunch or one bundle, monodelphous, as in China rose, or two bundle, diadelphous, as in pea, or into more than two bundle, polydelphous, as in citrus. There may be variation in length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of flower and is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of 3 parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Ovary is enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to stigma. Stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is receptive surface for pollen grain. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to the flattened cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. They are termed syncarpus when carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and precentral. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and the ovules are borne on this ridge forming 2 rows, as in P. When the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be axial, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered, but it becomes two chambered due to formation of false septal, mustard, and archimon. When the ovules are borne on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called free central. In basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of the ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower marigold. The fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of flowering plant. It is a matured or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of wall or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp and middle mesocarp and the inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as drupe. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and an inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous, the seed. The ovules after fertilization develop into seeds. A seed is made up of seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of radicle, an embryonal axis, and one as in wheat maize or two cotyledon as in gram and pea. Structure of dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and the inner tegment. The hilum is a scare on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reservoir food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and the plumule. Figure 5.14, in some seeds such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seeds. In plants such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seed and such seeds are called non-endospermous. Structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called aileron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a group at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called coleopetile and coleorhiza respectively. Semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief, in simple and scientific language and presented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habit, vegetative character, root, stem and leaves, and then floral characters, inflorescence and flower parts. After describing various parts of a plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. The floral formula is represented by some symbols. In the floral formula, BR stands for bacteriate, K stands for calyx, C is for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium, G for gynoecium, G underline for superior ovary, G upper line for inferior ovary, circle with arrow for male, circle with plus sign for female, and circle with both and on both plus sign for bisexual plant, and plus sign and above a circle for actinomorphic, and percentage for zygomorphic nature of flower. Fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure within bracket and adhesion by a line drawn above the symbols of floral parts. A floral diagram provides information about the number of parts of a flower, their arrangement and relation they have with one another, the position of another. But the position of mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium are drawn in successive holes, calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being in the center. Floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion within parts of holes and between holes. The floral diagram and floral formula represent the mustard plant family Brassicaceae. Solanaceae. It is a large family, commonly called as potato family. It is widely distributed in tropics, subtropics, and even temperate zones. Vegetative character. Plant mostly herb, shrubs, and rarely small trees. Stem. Herbaceous, rarely woody, aerial, erect, cylindrical, branch, solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous, underground stem in potato, Solanum tuberosum. Leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, X-stipulate, venation, reticulate. Floral characters: inflorescence, solitary, axillary or cymose as in solanum, flower, bisexual, actinomorphic, calyx, sepal, 5, united, persistent, velvet estivation, corolla, petal 5, united, velvet estivation, androecium, stamens 5, epipetalous, gynoecium, bicarpellary, obligately placed, syncarpous, ovary superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovule exile, fruits, berry or capsule, seeds, many endosperm, floral formula, economic, economic importance. Many plants belonging to this family are source of food: tomato, brinjal, potato, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory, tobacco, ornamental, petunia. Summary: flowering plant exhibit enormous variation in shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, lifespan, habit, and habitat. They have well-developed root and shoot system. Root system is either taproot or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plant have tap root while monocotyledonous plant have fibrous root. The roots in some plant get modified for storage of food, mechanical support and respiration. The shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flowers, and fruits. The morphological features of stem, like the presence of nodes and internodes, multicellular hair, and positively phototropic nature, help to differentiate the stems from roots. Leaf is a lateral outgrowth of stem developed exogenously at the node. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibit marked variation in their shape, size, margin, apex, and extent of incision of leaf blade lamina. The flower is a modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescence. They exhibit enormous variation in structure, symmetry, position of variation in relation. Lateral outgrowth of stem developed exogenously at the node. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibit marked variation in their shape, size, margin, apex, and extent of incision of leaf blade lamina. The flower is a modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescence. They exhibit enormous variation in structure, symmetry, position of ovary in relation to other parts, arrangement of petal, sepal, ovule. After fertilization, the ovary is modified into fruit and ovule into seeds. Seeds either may be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size, and period of viability. The floral characteristics form the basis of classification and identification of flowering plant. This can be illustrated through semi-technical description of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described in a definite sequence by using scientific term. The floral features are represented in the summarized forms as floral diagrams and floral formula.